to all the beautiful souls out there in YouTube land and Facebook, actually, if this is working properly. I am joined here tonight with returning guests and good friends and fellow collaborators on YouTube, Autodidactic, that Campbell, and Mike at Faraday Research. Hello, good sirs, and hello to everyone out there.
Hello, hello.
Good evening.
Mike, since you're in a bit of a time crunch here, I'm going to let you take over and lead off on the first topic there of what electricity and whatnot is.
Wow.
How it all works.
That's the
You have
$6
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
But yeah, maybe we start with like, are there sort of sections like we've got batteries, which is storage, production of, or I mean, are there certain sort of in a system? Is there like stages?
Well, if we go really far back, as far like to Volta when he was coming up with the first battery, back in those days they thought, just by creating a static electricity effect was the only way of creating electricity. But when Volta started doing experiments with using copper and then a dielectric and using some acid of some sort, that they were finding that they were getting electrical current using certain metals reacting with an acid or a electrolyte. That not only can you create electricity by the static means, you could also create it chemically. So that was a very big discovery for Volta to come up with the very first battery. Back then they used to call it a pile because it was a pile accumulations of copper, dielectric, and battery acid, and just kept piling things up. I think they also used nickel as well in the composition. So yeah, that was the very first creation of the first battery.
So different layers of different. Basically, this stacking was different layers of different, materials that had different.
A lot of the experimentation was done in that time with different materials. What was working with creating electrical current or creating, basically a new version of creating electricity, not through a static means, right? So, also too, back in those days, you got to understand they didn't have like voltmeters and amp meters and stuff like this. None of that stuff was invented yet. So some of the early tests to actually see if electricity was present in a battery, they actually had a dissected frog, and they would touch it with 2 electrodes, and then the leg would shoot out.
The leg would move. Yeah. I do remember.
Biological, right? We could get in that story right there. We could spend 6 hours talking about that one. There was a big controversy, with having electricity and biological reactions. So we could do a whole show on that one altogether. But as far as that was the very first time that they were able to store electrical power in a battery.
And so Volta is obviously where we get the word volt from.
Yep.
Is like is energy in a battery stored in volts? Or I mean, my real question: how is it stored? How do you hold?
Well, it's a chemical reaction. Yeah, it's a chemical reaction with the metals. You have a dielectric, you have copper, and some of the batteries have nickel, and then it's the reaction. It gets into almost like the alchemy type of stuff.
So is it almost? Is it like when electricity goes in, a reaction is created, and that basically changes or transmutes the the materials, holes in there, and then when you want to take it back, does that reverse and release the energy? Is that how it works?
It can only store the power for so long after the battery discharges and the I guess the electrolyte either wears out or does not hold that charge with the reaction with the steel and the copper and the dielectric. It breaks down, right? Because an
it's the
acid will
breaking
naturally
down.
breaking down.
And
Yeah,
that's a
Yeah.
good question. And point of it is that it's these endothermic, exothermic reactions we're taught in chemistry class, but that's
right,
putting out energy, which is your heat, which is your cold, like
right,
it's absorbing its in endothermic,
right,
putting out its exothermic, but that's also electric energy as well that is
right,
in that reaction, so that it's being creating a battery that you're not having to do these chemical changes in that deteriorates it and builds it up or
right,
destroys it, like in your giant D 3.5
right,
volt batteries. It's zinc around charcoal, where you're getting your current from the zinc dissolving into that charcoal, creating a chemical reaction that's then putting out this electrical charge
right.
differential.
Like
But it,
when Volta was doing some of the experiments, you had to be very careful with because some of the gases that were coming off these piles were they're quite toxic and also very flammable. So a lot of those batteries back in those days, they did catch on fire from time to time, and it wasn't pretty. And it was just over the years and years of developing the battery, right, that it got safer and safer, right? You didn't have the toxic fumes coming off. But there is still a lot of toxic material in even modern day batteries now. But, the technology gets better over time, right?
Most of them are lead and acid, aren't they? So acid
Well,
batteries.
see now, like they're getting into these new batteries that a lot of guys are using off the grid homes. They're called lithium iron phosphate battery. It's a dry cell battery. So they also have the characteristics of it is almost like a capacitor. You can charge and discharge way many more times than you could a lithium ion battery. Lithium ion batteries they're pretty unstable, and they had the problems in the cell phones of the lithium ion batteries exploding.
overheating, exploding,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So the
And
lithium iron phosphate battery, it is a dry cell battery. And I have one of them that's actually made for a scooter. I think it's a 160 amp hour battery. But they're very stable. Number two, they're non-toxic and they're extremely light. Like if you take like a regular car battery compared to this thing's way, way, way lighter. The materials are just so much lighter. But the longevity of the battery is the main thing. But they can be discharged way more than the average car battery can. They're rated almost like a capacitor when it comes to like lifespan. So the off the gridders, the guys who are building the solar houses and with the inverters and all that stuff, they're all switching over to the lithium iron phosphate battery because they last and they perform, right?
well, there's also such things too, like a mechanical battery. And an example of this is people have created systems where the solar energy activates a water pump that then pumps water up into the water tower
Yep.
while it's using that electricity during the day. And then when you want it at night, you let the water out, go through the hydroelectric
Yeah.
generator, and it's coming back out. And that's
Nice.
completely green and
Yeah.
renewable type of battery as well. So it's that also like graphite, I believe, or graphene is another type of solid
Yeah.
state battery that they've been suppressing the knowledge of or the advancement out. And
Yeah.
I think John Hutchinson's crystal battery might be that type, but it could also be a piezoelectric style battery or something in
I think
between.
from what he was saying that he was determined that the type of crystal batteries he was making they were based on the Casimir effect. That's why
I
they
believe that is related into the piezoelectric somehow, right?
yeah,
Aspect of it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then there's also these the plasma battery, which is your liquid metal state battery, which there's not much. It's like in the highest notches of compartmentalized and classified technologies in military industry complex, but it's also using these monoatomic metals that I'm making in the alchemy thing, which if you're able to connect all of it at once, then you have these higher dimensional, I guess, like energy ways of like, if you're able to reverse or keep in the circuit where it's not producing heat in your motor, but instead it's the exact opposite, like a Searle endothermic, like you made with your pulse motor there, where it's getting cooler, bringing it out of the environment. That if you make batteries in your circuits like that too, that there's a whole higher dimensional of efficiency and then reusing and whatnot, that we just are on the precipice of understanding and actually adding the applications into the everyday manufacturing and usage scaling.
I think with their technology, the way things are going now, they want to go with the electric cars and stuff like that. That's great. So my thought is, I'm thinking to the future. The next biggest industry, I think, is on the horizon. It's energy storage. Okay, we know how to make electricity. There's many ways of creating electricity, but I think the next big technology boom, I guess you could say, is going to be in energy storage methods. I really believe that. Because if we can perfect the battery, okay, then generating the power is one thing, but being able to store this power efficiently and be able to utilize it efficiently, I think that's the frontier that we're kind of headed towards. And it's just going to spark so many new industries. The materials. All that material science is just going to boom. There's just going to be a lot of technology growth, right? And we're already starting to see it happen, right?
So, for instance, a circuit, like a higher dimensional energy motor circuit with the energy storage and usage, like your pulse motor style that you make, where it's it's in resonance with itself, and you're like getting the step up that's getting that extra energy out of it. And it's that you're not creating or having to destroy, it doesn't destroy the dipole, so you're not having to put the energy in of recreating the field and then it going down, collapsing and going back each time you're pulling a little bit of electricity out of it, and then having to spend that huge amount of electricity to create the electromagnetic field that is within it. Instead, you're keeping the dipole, that whole field, stable the entire time, so it takes just a little bit to keep it running and going, and then you're able to get and harness so much out of it more efficient. That's a good way of wording it.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is a lot of people don't look at when they're building their energy projects is having internal capacitance in your pulse motor. If you could store power in the pulse motor and take a portion of it out to run a device or charge something or whatever, that's really the key. I keep coming back to that as I'm doing my experiments. Doesn't matter if it's a pulse motor or a Don Smith generator or whatever. I'm learning I'm actually proving to myself that each and every device I make has to have some sort of internal capacitance. If that motor does not have the ability to store some of that power and then start feeding a bit of that power out to do some work, then you're getting that much closer to being over unity. Now we could get into the other realm of, Tesla was working with very high voltages and very high frequencies. If you work in that realm, you'll be over unity all the time. But the problem is, for the last 130 years, we've been using a system that's been designed to basically decay itself. It
to be the
cannot-
most inefficient,
Right.
energy
Exactly.
destructive using circuitry and systems
Well,
possible.
because like you said earlier, they've designed every single motor for the dipole to be killed by itself. If you can stop your motor from killing the dipole, and then pump a certain percentage of that power back into the system, you get a way more efficient motor, or even over unity at that moment. It's just the way we've been taught how to build a motor or transmit electricity through a wire has been totally wrong. What Tesla was doing back in the 1890s with wireless transmission, that's the power source we should have adopted right away. But the powers to be didn't want that. They wanted us to receive our power on a wire that is extremely, not good for your health because it's running at 60 hertz, for one, and we're running it at a very low frequency. Therefore, if you run that electricity through a coil long enough, it's just going to heat itself up and burn out.
Yes.
Right?
See, so you just triggered a thought like in my head that our circuits are created exothermic with the resistance, where Tesla's electricity of this, it was called cold electricity. So it's like the circuit it wasn't in the heat spectrum, or it's that it wasn't combustion style exothermic reactions that not just our engines are, our motors are, our electromagnetic fields are, we're creating and breaking down the dipole and reestablishing it each time. It's creating the circuit to be in resonance with itself, but then also to be on the endothermic reaction of taking heat energy in and adding that into electricity. That will give you over unity right there. If your circuit and your motor is in resonance with itself, where you're not having to build the dipole over, reestablish it each time, break it down.
Hello.
As well as like you're talking about with the capacitors in certain spots that keep
a few
the
technical
energy going,
difficulties,
like,
guys. If you can still hear me. Thanks, everybody. James, Truth Unveiled. Hey, Erica, Dragon Sage, Two Hats, Mr. Breeze. How you going? Howdy done. Who we got there? Bill Miller Flip. Is that right? Howdy, Howie. Hello, everyone. All right, we are back, so we can continue. We just lost a bit of transmission there. So I've got a question. What actually is a pulse motor then? Like how is that? What is it?
Well, what you're doing is you're almost mimicking what AC power is. Now you're using a DC current and you're pulsing it exactly the description it is. It's pulsing a DC. So I could take a pulse DC or a pulse motor and run AC appliances like light bulbs and stuff like that with it, provided that you're within the 50 to 60 hertz range. See, it's all about frequency. Even with Tesla, all his devices were way, way high in the frequency and way, way high in the voltages, but none of his stuff ever seemed to burn out. Because it's not. It's working at such a.
And I think it's actually engineering AC components of a circuit engine and then also DC components, because AC are going back and forth, right? You're needing two, and DC is going just one way. And that the DC, that's how the pulse works, because you're not having to break that dipole back and forth each time, and it just keeps going and going and going. So each time you pulse it in, you get it back out.
See, with AC current, you can transmit a lot further than you can a DC, and that was the biggest hurdle that Thomas Edison had. He had to have a power station every kilometer because he couldn't pump enough power through that power line to make do the distance. So his power lines,
all those electrons, like all that weight in that one direction in that circuit, where the AC, even though the circuit is connected all the way down there, it's just going like that back and forth. The electrons only moving like
and the wires and the wires had to be 2 inches in diameter, right? Where AC power, the wires could be a quarter of an inch diameter and go way further than DC can by far. And that's why
So
Tesla
AC
won the
better to
war.
send with. AC is better to send with, but it's worse. It gives more wear to the machines at the other end. Is that right?
Well, no, actually, DC does. DC does
DC
more
does.
damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the
It
alternating
depends
current
on
doesn't.
how the electromagnetic field in the motor or the generator is structured and created, sort of thing. It's higher. It's truly higher dimensional physics and incorporating like three-phase generation, electric flow, AC flow, as well as DC flow into that three-phase, putting it in harmony with each other, and wiping out your resistance as much as possible within the circuits, as well as then also creating positive reinforcing feedback loops within the bell circuit or the kicker circuit within the circuit, sort of thing,
Right.
where you're pulling your load off of to the circuit that is all the motor self-sustaining.
Well, the biggest difference between the AC motor and the DC motor is the brushes. Okay, you need brushes with a DC motor, where an AC, it is turning on created on the field. Okay, so it's the field that's causing that stator to turn, right? And that means there's no friction there with brushes. You know, DC motor, every so often you got to replace the brushes in the DC motor. It doesn't, like, our motor technology obviously is a lot better now. We can make DC motors, run quite well. But back in the
what
day,
you're pointing out there is today's DC motor is exponentially more energy efficient than any AC motor could ever be, because it's not having to destroy and reestablish the dipole. But 100 years ago, the DC motors needed that physical interaction of the resistance of physical thing, on-off connections of like each time going around in that circuit to generate it.
You know, it was generating a lot of sparks, a lot of heat. You know, they burned out quite often, the DC motors. And then Tesla came along and invented the AC motor and just flipped everybody upside down, because they said it couldn't be done, right? Edison didn't want any part of AC whatsoever. Says it's too dangerous, this and that. And, you know, they, after...
killed elephants, kill us all.
It's just he didn't understand what AC was. See, you got to understand between Tesla and Edison. Okay, Tesla was a very well educated electrical engineer. He had all the schooling. He knows the math. Where Thomas Edison, he was like a trial and error guy. He had no high school or college education. He had no degrees in science or mechanical engineering behind him. He was just a guy that,
he used to
came up with stuff, trial and error. Yeah, he did everything kind of on the fly, right?
Yeah, and meditate. And then as soon as one of the balls dropped, he'd go off, and he'd get a flash of insight, apparently. So that wasn't extremely scientific. So AC is running on, we're talking fields, basically, and frequency much rather than DC, physical mechanical motors.
DC is more of a brute force type electricity, right? That's why it's has its inefficiencies. It's good for small electronics.
It used to, but your pulse motor is the exact opposite, where it's like the most efficient now.
Yeah.
So is the pulse motor a DC motor?
It's a DC motor, yes. Yeah, it's a DC motor, but when you got it set up properly, you can, you pulse it into that frequency of AC, and it's like I can run my pulse motor. I've had it as low as 120 milliamps, or 120 milliamps of power. That's like nothing, and I can get high voltage back EMF off it around 160 to 170 volts, right?
But
so
pulsing it up.
When you get the back EMF coming off the coil, you're going to get these high voltage spikes. And when you get it right at the right frequency and the right resistance, you can get 160 volt spikes coming back, and that's what you capture. And when you capture it, you dump it into a battery or dump it into a capacitor, and then utilize it for whatever you want to do, right? But as far as like efficiency wise, a pulse DC pulse motor is probably the most efficient motor you'll ever see.
Yeah, and in some sense, it's incorporating an aspect of what they call the mechanical battery of the cycles of it, sort of thing, that you're taking the inertia of the movement in the motor, and that when you're pulsing it, that is the battery that is the generator, the electromagnetic field in that is essentially the battery, and then the frequency you're putting in is then what's being taken out and used. If you have it running at if the circuit and the generator are both in resonance,
right,
and operating at the right frequency.
So as far as like the pulse motor is concerned, where everybody goes wrong with a pulse motor is they're not using a spark gap switch. Okay, and the spark gap switch, if you're utilizing it properly, it basically negates the Lenz's law. Okay.
So what I believe that is right. So it's you have that whole circuit in resonance with itself, or very close to resonance, and then the spark gaps that you're adding in, Mike, are turning that circuit into an open higher circuit dimension endothermic reaction, where it's taking the energy out of the environment, whether it's using radio waves, sound waves, or heat waves. It's taking some sort of that energy and then adding that into the amplitude of that resonance frequency.
Right.
Circuit.
It's adding. It's basically
flow.
A voltage doubler. If you put, say, two spark gaps together, you're even going to get even more power coming out. So the more power you can add to the system from an exterior source like counter space, as the spark gap is creating, that is basically is what's going to save your dipole. It's going to reduce the amount of current or the Lenz effect.
Didn't really hear much of that.
Oh, I'm going to repeat it.
Gone.
Are you back?
They've left me again. Come on, internet gods, be with us.
We lost Campbell.
Two hats. AC is able to monitor and charge easier. DC is easier to produce. Not much revenue to be had.
I've never lost Campbell in my.
I can hear Campbell.
How are you?
Are you back?
Delicious. Hello.
Oh, now he's buffering.
Now he's gone.
Now he's buffering.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Well, he's in Australia, so we'll give him a break.
So, what I'm going to be looking into is incorporating either this Theta network, or it's Odyssey has I forget the name. I just saw it today, but it's like a similar sort of thing that if you create the stream within these platforms and tokens and I guess it's smart contract, hyperledger, interoperability, that it both somehow in the streaming aspect of it so exponentially reduces the amount of information needing to be cross-sent or transferred to each other, and it will revolutionize the internet, so stuff like this never happens.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The way I look at it, it's pretty amazing that we're chit-chatting with Campbell and he's on the other side of the planet, right?
Right?
Like this, 100 years ago was unheard of. This would be like, Star Trek stuff, right? And Tesla seen all this 100 years ago.
All right.
He was saying, "Hey, are you back?"
Hello, all.
Oh,
it is truly like, if you really think about it, it's like, so I have two streams of video and sound that are going into the network that is then connecting with both your guys is going into the network, all interacting with each other, and then every other person that is now watching it in the same live time, and then their comments are going in and being interconnected on our like pod here, like the portal of the live chat of all of them together, and then after that all happening at the same time, then re-going and then spreading out all across itself all over again. Like,
Yeah,
it's
pretty
actually
amazing.
it is. It's
No, we were just saying when we lost Campbell again.
Okay, what I might do is I'm going to temporarily remove one of my streams in it, and hopefully that will stop the
that might
open
be
up
it.
bandwidth and processing, that we won't have as much of an issue.
Yep, that's the way it goes. Yeah, that's the thing with live internet streaming.
Together, did we?
Yeah, maybe they got issues out there. Who knows? Well, we can continue. He'll probably pop back in at any moment.
Yeah, that is true. He will. That's funny. I'm in control of streaming to Campbell's channel, and he's not even.
So, kind of getting back to the pulse motor. So, it's when you're doing all these experiments for years and years, and you start to see trends of certain things that work, and then you see other people doing the same thing, and it's working for them, and you're putting it together like a piece of a puzzle. It's like a puzzle, a giant puzzle that you're looking at what other people are doing, and you're getting the same effects, and then eventually you come to realize, what, this actually, there is something behind this, and that is the spark gap. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, Tesla is probably one of the greatest inventors of all time. Okay. Some people might dispute that, but to me, he is the
I can agree more.
highest. Yeah. He was at a whole new level of understanding. Okay.
X-ray, radio frequency, AC electricity,
robotics.
Right?
This guy was 100
every
years.
field we could possibly imagine.
Yeah. So
modern technology.
And you know what? Okay, he didn't have transistors and stuff, but he was using the spark gap. But he started realizing the spark gap, there was something really to this. That he was getting an excessive amount of power coming back through a spark gap. And that's why his earliest Tesla coils were all rotary spark gaps, because they were bringing in such a huge amount of potential into the system that, at first he did not know, where is this power coming from? Was it coming from the antenna? Was it coming from the coil? Or was it coming from the spark gap? And he finally realized, you know what? It's really coming from the spark gap. Not all of it, but a great portion of the excessive amount of voltage that he was creating was coming through a spark gap. So he started figuring, you know what? There must be, this power is coming from counter space. Because, the Tesla coil, if you point a Tesla coil at another Tesla coil directly, and you put a neon bulb through it, and you got it at the proper frequency, there will be a black void that will show up in the neon tube, where the two frequencies of longitudinal wave are hitting each other and creating this void. And that's counter space, when you got two light sources hitting each other. And this is what Eric Dollard's working on right now. You can see some of his experiments.
Yeah, the cosmic induction ray generator there.
Yeah.
And Dragon Sage mentioned Ken Wheeler, and he is also talks about the counter space within the toroidal magnetic field. And that's exactly what you're speaking of in the middle, where those two long. Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. So what about if we're adding in then into that the spark gap equation? Is it possible to turn it into a three-phase circuit that is connected to a ground and to a radio antenna that is now also bringing those in? And if you use transistors or is it a transistor? Or is it a what's the other thing?
Well,
whatever it is,
originally, yeah, because like Tesla was working on the spark gap radio,
to get it at the frequency of the resonance that the circuit is running at, is what I was trying to say.
That gets really technical to actually achieve resonance with that. With a spark gap, it's not easy. You have to get the right resistance in the circuit to get that harmonic. It's almost like
right, but that's what I'm saying. If you can get every aspect of a circuit into its harmonic resonance, that it's like so much as like a radio wave going into it should actually be adding more electricity into it and creating over unity. If you have that entire circuit, all aspects of it in the resonance harmony with itself.
Yeah, because he's always talked about resonance and frequency and the power that you're using. You know, those are the three main things that you always have to make a circuit over unity. And I'm doing this stuff with Don Smith, his type generator using the spark gap and all that. And, time and time again, I'm seeing this excessive amounts of power coming into the system that is changing the whole dynamics of it. If you use a spark gap, say in a pulse motor setup, that is going to help you defeat Lenz's law. If you use it properly, it will defeat Lenz's law. Because my pulse motor has very little Lenz's law in it. Very little. Because, if I'm running a pulse motor and I'm producing 160 volts pulsed at about 50 to 80 hertz within that range, and I'm using only 120 milliamps to achieve it, that's pretty impressive.
That is.
Right. And anytime I switch to, say, like a transistor or a MOSFET, the best I can get is maybe 350 milliamp draw. It's just not there. That's when the Lenz law starts taking over and draining. So
what if you put it in the spark gaps on each side of it going in, sort of thing, or like the transistor or the transistor or the I can't think of it.
It has to be a very high speed transistor to do that too. But see, you got to worry about you got a heat problem. The transistor works different than the spark gap. The spark gap, it's free. It's an open air, right? Where, if you're using a MOSFET,
transformer also was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Transformer on that aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, you need to, to multiply the voltage, increase the voltage all the time, step it up, step it up, step it up. Right.
So
what is the spark gap? Just literally a gap?
Well, I think it's a gap. It's an opening into counter space.
Yes, it is, but also that plasma flame, that plasma electricity is created in that spark gap, right? So, like where the plasma flame that comes out of your spark gap. And so it's like plasma going in, plasma going out, connecting to that electrical current that is now exposed in its circuitry. Yeah, right. So
what it sounds like is that the DC motors are a lot more mechanical, and the AC motors are more based on magnetic fields or energetic fields, vibrations, frequencies, things like that.
No, it's that the AC one, it
runs on the field.
The magnetic field. Every cycle, it's being created and destroyed, and that's giving you the flip back between the A and the C, where the DC is just going one way over and over again. The motion is the same direction the entire time as the field, where the AC are switching the field back and forth along with that same motion.
See,
is that how you can step up the power? Is that how you step it up?
Just increase the field in an AC motor. You're just
And
increasing
so
the
that
field.
Yeah, expansion and contraction and gets bigger. So the differential in between is bigger. Is that how that works?
See, the biggest problem with the modern DC motor, what they want to do is you're always going to get a back EMF coming from the coil, right? So in most modern DC motors, they ground it out, okay? And that's where you're losing all your power. You're putting power into it. Well, you should be able to take that back EMF coming back and put it back into the system again.
There is a way to actually wire it around it, and you have to have your one wire going like this, and then the other wire going around it, like so. It's like it's a bifilar positive system. Is like double spiraling around the spiral that is the negative. I'm not explaining it properly, but it's
you see, like my pulse motor is utilizing the back EMF coming from
exactly.
The coil,
you're eliminating the back torque and able to transform that negative backwards energy into harmony and then positive sort of thing, right? Jim Murray explains. Have you seen Jim Murray's work?
Yeah, Jim Murray's. Yeah, he's right on top of that. Yeah. See, he has a different system than mine as far as a pulse motor, right? Mine's more based on the spark gap type. His is more based on the field that he's returning the field back to the system. So
that's what I'm saying. We need to connect your part with his part, and then also with Jared Morin's part of his magnetic DC motor. You take the three parts of that together, and you're going to have one hell of an efficient, over unity, ridiculous, amazing device right there.
See, the number one thing that kills a motor is the lens effect. Okay, that's kind of like the cancer of the motor. If you can get rid of the lens effect? Yeah, lens effect, right? So if that's where the spark the spark gap
comes. Can you explain the lens effect for
it's basically the resistance of the back torque, right?
Okay.
So that basically makes the motor inefficient. Now that's why Gerald Moore and a few other people have discovered by using the spark gap, it eliminates that back resistance and actually almost totally removes it from the system. Therefore, your motor becomes, almost over 100% efficiency, right?
So basically, when the electricity is flowing, it builds up like a back pressure, basically, that's creates resistance. And then when you put a spark gap in, it releases that, so you don't get the resistance.
Yep, basically that's exactly what happens.
Cool. Yep. And in doing that, it also releases a resistance which steps up the amperage or volts or watts or whatever it's called.
It increases the output, but also makes your battery last way longer. Way longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me to run a pulse motor, make 160 volts coming out of it, and it only takes 120 milliamps to do it. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Now, so I mean, that kind of power, can you generate that off? You could probably generate that off a little water wheel or something, couldn't you?
Yeah,
essentially,
like a hydro.
Yeah. So you could start it with free energy and then run it and step it up, and get usable energy out the end.
Exactly. That's the whole idea. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Cool.
And see, a lot of people don't know how a transformer works. Everybody thinks they know how a transformer works.
And then you bend them and they turn into robots. What is a transformer?
Well, you have your primary, your L1. Say you have 10 windings, right? And then you would have a second coil that's in resonant frequency with L1 that would have, say, 300 windings. It'll step up that voltage. So that's right. So people are thinking that it is actually because the magnetic field that's being created side by side. Actually, that's wrong.
Revolutions per second on this, how many times it goes on this part of the circuit, how many times it's going on this part, right? Of like,
well, everybody thinks it's by magnetic induction, and it turns
no, not
out,
at all. I know what you're talking about. I know.
yeah,
It's
apparent.
what Tesla called the volts per second or volts per revolution, and what we're now the hertz or whatnot, right?
Well, see, we're talking about the transformer here.
Yeah,
okay?
so it's electromagnet, right? Because when you're putting the iron
No,
or the
it's
ferrite
not.
into well,
It's
because the
not.
transformer, you have like the solid core, right?
Yep.
That has the one that's creating one current of flow and electromagnetic field of the magnetized magnet flow of the iron, and then the copper coils. You have the one winding on the one side that is however many of coil or windings are on that side, and then by putting the double on the other side or the triple the ratio on the other side, it's how it's taking and putting energy into that flow that is in the iron, right? That's going between the two.
That's what everybody thinks, but that's
Okay.
wrong. That's wrong.
Please do explain. This is key right
here. Yeah, this
Ooh,
is
your secret.
that's what a lot of people think. The magnetic core absorbs about 90% of that energy. 90%.
So it's just, I see what you're saying. So it's a very inefficient style of one that.
See, everybody thinks it's done by induction. It's not.
So what's induction? What are all these terms? That's obviously to pull something in.
Well, when you have two coils side by side, if you induce current on one side, it's going to absorb that power on the other side, exactly the way the Don Smith generator works. Okay,
so
that's what people know a transformer to be. But,
that's a transformer.
So that's your like ones and zeros, your binary code in the basis of analog computing of between those, right? Am I correct in that essentially, Mike?
Well, from what Eric Dollard and Chris Carson, they were studying, how a transformer works, and they're thinking one of their theories is, and they still don't know the answer to it, and even Eric Dollard still does not know exactly how a transformer works. With a guy with an educational background like that, to actually make a statement that he still doesn't know exactly how a transformer works, that means that there's something really anomalous happening inside a transformer. They're everywhere. If you're outside that power the houses, they're all over the place. We use them every day. We use a transformer in our devices to drop the voltage down, but we do not understand how the transformer works. Because if you take a magnetic core, like a ferrite core, and you wrap windings around it, the electromagnetic field is absorbed by that core up to 90%. So if it absorbs that power, how does it transfer it over to the coil next to it?
So how I visualize it and a little bit more of the understanding is that you see the vortex, like the rodent coil, the vortex donut, that is the circuitry, the flow of your magnetic fields, and that one cycle around that through the toroid of it going, that's how the magnetic cycle works. And then you're pulling the electricity out of it perpendicular sort of thing. And your counter space is in the middle, like you said, that hole in the middle, the counter space. So that's where your spark gap is. That's where the void is. That's where the, I guess, connection and energy and harmony to the ether would come out of. And that you have to, we really don't understand magnetism and the electromagnetic interaction between them.
The one theory is on how
what it sounds like to me is as soon as you send this electricity through air, through a non-metal or conducting material, if you just throw it through the air,
right,
it seems that changes everything, and then you're interacting with ether and with other.
That's right. You're in a different realm. Yeah, you're in a different realm.
Yeah.
But it's that you're taking that electricity from the solid current and you're temporarily accessing the same energy field in the air that is connected to the ether, and then straight back into that circuit before it can get out of like harmony or out of resonance with the rest of the flow.
Well, I think the one of my theories is how a transformer is actually working is the L1 coil is actually transmitting like an antenna to L2.
It sounds like. So a transformer's got two coils in it.
Right. So you got your primary, you got your primary and secondary. Right? Sorry?
And so the electricity goes into the first coil, gets spun around, and then it just gets sent wirelessly to the second one. And
correct.
In that process, something happens that we don't know what it is, pretty much.
Right. And it's not electromagnetic induction. It's not. Because, like I said before,
so we're talking
the core,
ether, transdimensional kind of energy stuff.
Yes, I think so. Because if you take the core, like I said before, and you wrap windings around it, and you induce it with a current, that core absorbs that field by 90%. So only 5% of that field is actually hitting the other coil. Well, how is it creating all that power?
Right?
Yeah, exactly right. Okay.
No, I get.
And this is like
I'm gonna work on this, and like the next time we talk, I know
there's a good video. There's actually a good
for you.
Yeah, there's actually a very good video. You type in the YouTube search Eric Dollard and Chris Carson. It's an old video. It's probably about 10, 15 years old. Maybe longer,
look
actually.
It up right now.
Yeah, and towards, I think it's the middle to the end, they talk about this, what a transformer really is. We do not know.
I mean, it's kind of given away a bit in the name as well, isn't it? You know, it's transforming the energy. But, I mean, the more you talk about this, it really is sounding like energy is kind of easy to get free from the atmosphere, and they've built all this stuff up to say, no, it's not. It's really hard to get.
Like, we've literally engineered our electric circuitry and our motors and our entire systems to be as inefficient and wasteful as possible.
Yeah. It's like any motor, you walk up and put your hand near it, and it's just pouring off heat. It's like, you know.
Exactly. That's right. That's exactly. It's if we were operating on endothermic generators and motors as opposed to exothermic, it would
see like Eric Dollars
90, you'd lose like 1% compared to 99% of everything.
So endothermic, it'd reuse the heat inside the motor for more energy, basically.
Eric Dollard basically says the heat is the rate at which electricity is destroyed.
I mean, you can even hear the power lines sometimes. You walk down, you can hear the energy just zapping off them. Just leak
every now and then you get a big enough field between those two wires, you get a runaway and you get an explosion.
Eric Dollard and who was it, Mike? Sorry?
Chris Carson.
Yeah. Who got here? Jay Armstrong, hello. One at a time, guys. We're trying.
Guys, I'm just going to take a bathroom break here. I'll be right back.
Absolutely. I'll hit play on this, and let's take a 5-minute coffee bathroom break.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
All righty. Here is Mr. Dollard.
Sorry, hold on, maybe.
He's a wise cat, Howie. Very smart man. Apparently he hasn't got the best personality, but he's very wise.
Right? Yeah. All right. What? Longitudinal wave energy. And do we do this first? I'll play this one. Michael, let us know when we get back if it's the right one.
Together. Let's get started. Coming second to Eric Dollard is very difficult.
Can't see anything.
I'm gonna. Sorry, I'll share it right away here. I just realized that.
Where is the bottleneck? Callum Wilkinson, how you doing, mate? Bill Millerflip, that's a cool name. Arc lamps gave off a loud buzz. Yeah, just leaking energy, right? No, Sean, that's not good. Yes, down with Lido, right? Mr. Trudeau. All
I
that
call
stuff's
him
getting
Judo.
Alrighty, I'll shut up. Here we go, guys. Mr. Dollard.
Finite time, and that is what we're considering our limit in the electromagnetic world in classical theory. Okay, now Eric and I are going to demonstrate the longitudinal wave, the one that travels infinitely faster than the speed of light and has no losses. just jerking like this. As you can see, if you move one end, the other end moves instantaneously. There is no time delay as there is with the transverse wave. And it's very important to pay attention to that because that's the one we completely ignore. That is the pressure wave essentially through the ether, as it was, one way to describe it. But you should remember that little demonstration because we spend all our time looking at just one of two waves. The transverse wave is unfortunately the one with the losses. The longitudinal wave is the one with no losses that we don't even acknowledge exists. And that's also the one, I might add, our minds transmit between each other. And that's the one that cells use to communicate with each other. It's the one that nerves use to communicate with each other. I have a more interesting chart. I'll use Eric's chart here. As you can see, if you were to stack these cells up here side by side of number 2 here, this is the transmission line with the capacitors in series and the coils in shunt. If you put another one here and another one and another one, what you find is you have 4 capacitors in a little cell-like structure. You have 4 capacitors, a coil shunt, 4 capacitors, a coil shunt, 4 capacitors, a coil shunt. It's my theory that the capacitors are the cell membrane of the cells next to each other, and the coil is probably DNA, would be my guess. And it is a guess, of course, but I've done I have a feeling that's how the nerve fibers work, and also probably how life itself develops energy from the ether and scalar field. Of course, the concept of the ether was banned. When was it, Eric?
Einstein.
Yeah, Einstein. Yeah, basically, Einstein knew how it all worked, but he did not, was not allowed, shall we say, to divulge it. All right, I have a little lecture on 2 devices that I found quite interesting. Seeing as how nobody really understands how these things work. Everybody thinks they know how a transformer works. We're going to go over that one. And we're also going to go over this interesting device here, which I've been passing around for the last 15 minutes, ball bearing motor. Now you can win a lot of bar bets with this one. And a lot of people would lose it, hands down. But all we do here is we take 2 ball bearings of any kind you want, connect them in this kind of fashion with an ammeter, connect to the outer race of each ball bearing, use a conductive shaft of some kind, makes no difference. I use brass, you can use steel, you can use anything you want, and get a 4 to 6 volt battery and just connect them to this thing, and you'd never think it would run, but it does. Eric, you have to give it a 0 starting torque. You have to give it a spin. Stand out of the way of the thing. You have to give it a spin because its starting torque is very low. Running torque is very high. Very interesting device. It'll run both directions, one polarity. So you can win a few bar bets with that one. And if anybody wants, I've tried it with about 5 different types of bearings. They all work just fine. and doesn't seem to be fussy. You got to get at least 10 to about 50 amps going through the bearings before it works properly. But Eric and I both thrashed this one around for quite a while, and I agree with Eric. It proves that you've got two vortexes operating here in the current somehow through the ball bearings, and the vortexes themselves are making the balls rotate. And that's another theory in itself, because the energy does vortex in and vortex out in the ether. All right, now we'll get into something a little more interesting. Does everybody know what a transformer is? They're on every power pole in every city, in every residential area, every industrial building. I work out at UCSB and I deal with them every day. We've got probably about 400 of them out there, large ones. And they seldom cause any trouble. And but unfortunately, nobody really quite understands how they work. And you say, oh, I know how a transformer works. I learned it in electronics class and all that. And that's true, you did. But we're going to go through a little basic principles of electronics here and power generation just for a second. If I take a magnet, power magnet right here, and a piece of steel, and hold the steel up next to the bar magnet, what happens is, in classical thinking, the magnetic flux lines of the magnetic field are attracted to this piece of iron. The iron tries to close the field lines, and you get a concentration of field lines in the iron itself. Iron is like a sponge. It just kind of grabs all the flux lines up. And the other principle we learn in electronics is that if we take a bar magnet and cause it to move around a conductor with a meter on it, the moving magnetic lines of force cutting the wire field generates a current that you can read with a meter. And everybody has demonstrated that at some time or another. I'm sure that's not anything. But the principle is the field lines cut the wires, and the wires somehow generate electricity. Interesting theory. On the primary winding of a transformer, this is a toroid. This is hopefully a perfect transformer. It has no core losses, and we'll just assume it has very good high permeability core. If you put an AC signal generator on this thing and your typical primary winding, the primary side we understand quite well, because when the current flows through the winding, the flux line, it tries to make a bar magnet basically out of this piece of core right here, because you have turns around it and you have a piece of steel in it. So what happens is all the flux lines, just like this piece of iron up here, jump from the winding into the core itself, the magnetic core, and forms a magnetic loop, actually a magnetic flux path around the transformer. And since it's AC in here, the flux, the magnetic field is changing both direction and magnitude with the alternating source. Is everybody following me so far? And nobody's disagreeing with anything? Okay, that's...
No way.
Are you?
No way.
You're not following. Well, you don't have to follow. That's all right.
Snake oil.
All right. Yeah, snake oil. You can explain this when I get through. Anyway, the problem exists in the secondary coil, which we all assume when the magnetic flux lines supposedly cross the winding of the secondary coil, it generates current, producing current in this arbitrary resistive load. The problem is that iron sucks up most all of the magnetic field, like 98%.
Oh, we lost the feed.
Go.
Yeah, see, it absorbs the electromagnetic field. So that means that lines of flux cannot go to the secondary winding. And that's where the argument
what is a line of flux?
The flux is
Like-
the field. It's the field that's created when you induce a current through a core. Right? That's still you're creating an electromagnet, basically. That's what it is. And the flux lines
And they
is
call that
right. And what he's saying is the core is absorbing all that energy. It's not transmitting it to the second coil.
Sorry, just to pause for a second.
Yeah,
So
he
you're
said
saying
when
the flux line there is essentially the resonance of the circuit or whatnot. That it's
Well,
all
what he's saying is
operating
it
up. You
doesn't
can have
travel.
that in hopper, but if you can have everything on that same flux line operating on that same frequency as the flux line in the transformer there, that it should theoretically then be not wasteful in those other ways that you'd have perfect induction or
See, the problem is when you got an
scalability through it.
induction, okay, when you got an electromagnet, it's creating those flux line fields, okay? It's now created a circle around itself. Let's say, assume it's like a circle or like a toroid type thing.
Exactly.
The problem is it only stays within that field. The other winding on the other side of the core does not receive any of that power. It is confined in the L1. He is saying that 98% of the flux energy that you assume is going to the second coil, no, it's not traveling at all. It's being confined in that one.
Yeah, he said it went into the iron rod in the middle or something, didn't he?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And so the second coil is
technically not picking up any of it. No, see,
yeah, but it's actually the output is more than the other coil. Is that right?
Well, yeah, that's exactly what.
It's
how
got
it
more
works.
output, but it's not picking anything up. There's no transference.
Right, and that's the $6 billion question. How is it doing it?
Is if you're able to get that flux field the exact same throughout the circuit, the entire circuit sort of thing, that you'd be theoretically able to pull just tiny amounts of energy out of the vacuum that would be enough to like power it or keep it stable or whatnot.
Well, that's what everybody's trying to figure out. But what I'm figuring is what's happening is that field is creating almost like an antenna effect. So the one is creating the one field, and it's transmitting like an antenna to the second coil, the step up. See, that's where, because
so
when you
make that efficient.
Well, see, that's where the confusion is. We don't understand how that power is going from L1 to L2.
Isn't it like essentially the same as a tuning fork and how the tuning fork?
Yeah,
right.
You might be right on it. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Theories.
Entrainment, is it entrainment? Is that what it's called?
Flux can essentially be the frequency that the tuning fork.
It's creating a harmonic. It's creating a harmonic on one side.
Yeah, so if you can have the flux or the circuit in harmony with the flux, then theoretically it shouldn't be wasteful and should be able to pull vacuum energy in or like be operating off of or not losing energy into the vacuum throughout it.
And see, this is where the problem lies. They're teaching you the wrong way in school.
Yeah. Because it's mirroring, isn't it? It's like you're putting out a signal and then whatever is mirroring that in the opposite coil.
I think Bernie had the best way to describe it, having two tuning forks side by side. You ring one, the other one starts ringing. I think
it's called
Bernie. That's the best.
They found it with clocks as well. This guy had a room full of clocks, and he set them all with pendulums, set them all different, and they all came into tune with each other.
Exactly. Yes.
Cosmic resonance, I think they called that one, or something.
Cosmic resonance, that's a better name.
Yep, and that's probably how the transformer works. It wouldn't surprise me for a second.
So when you think of that, we're talking frequency then.
Exactly.
It's giving out frequency.
And what was that? Yeah, and that's what Tesla was saying. Frequency. Hello.
Yep.
Listen to what
it's mirroring frequency.
Was saying.
So that if you have the circuit in harmonic resonance, then you're able to just use the little frequency that everything else is, right? So that you're no longer facing the resistance of everything.
There is no resistance.
Yeah, when it's in harmony, right? So exactly, so that if you have everything in that harmonic system, you're not going to have the heat loss, the load, and the right.
So basically, what you have in front of you is a free energy device, right in plain sight.
How have we had 100 years of electrical engineers and no one's gone, well, this is made of metal, this coil's made of metal. If we put a frequency in, this is probably just going to, mirror it. And
see, because that seems
so simple. When you say it like that, it's just
distorted it. The academia has distorted it so badly. Yeah, that's the whole crime of
this. This is why no one understands electricity, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
God.
See, all you have to do is understand what Tesla was talking about. Okay, go back to basics. This guy was way far ahead of everybody's understanding of electricity and how to manipulate it. Just listen to what he says. Don't try to change it. Try to figure out what he was trying to say. And just like we did right now, basically the transformer works like two tuning forks. You ring one, the other one will pick up exactly the same frequency. But because it's got more windings on the second coil, that's where you get your gain in voltage. And there's you have it, folks. Yep.
So the more windings or circuits in a coil, the faster it spins, and it'll amplify up the
free energy, everybody, right there.
And
it's right in front of us.
Adrian Sharp says, "I wonder if this happens with humans as well," which is a good point. It's
sure.
What we give out.
Well, it's called ESP, and I've been studying that for a while in extrasensory perception. Yeah. See,
the vibe of this room isn't good. The energy of those people aren't good. We are on the same wavelength today.
They're just not on the level. They're bringing me down, man.
Right?
Everything is energy. Everything is energy. Right from biological to mechanical.
Definitely. I mean, we're energy.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a big key of
this
it.
Is what
we're just looking at electricity as energy, and we're not looking at the heat, the light, the sound, the radio waves, and all of that is also electricity, energy in some form. And that if we had efficient circuits, that it wouldn't waste the energies of all of those, and instead it would be able to utilize those energies and bring them in, thus giving you the over unity because they're open. It's open source to higher dimensions of circuit.
Right. It's like they were doing these ESP experiments where one guy would think of something and write it on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, and then his other buddy on the other side of the room would come in and try to figure out what was thinking in his mind that he wrote on the paper, and he was able to do it. So that means his energy was able to merge with the energy of his mind and figure out what he actually wrote on the piece of paper. All this energy is all connected. It doesn't matter if it's mechanical or biological. Energy is energy. It works the same way. It's just in a different medium.
But that they're all scalable on the exact same geometries, and it's that we've been taught to not think of any of them as the same. But it's like it's how nature works. It's how everything is working around us.
Okay, there's I'm trying to remember the name of this one guy. It's on the tip of my tongue, but he's studying basically what he's trying to figure out is where consciousness comes from. Okay, with all the great technology of trying to map the brain and figure out how the brain works, we know quite a bit, but we still do not know where consciousness comes from.
And it's the same thing because they're looking at the question the wrong way. They're looking at the brain.
Yeah, that's the problem. You know where consciousness.
The brain's the receiver.
Yes, you nailed it.
Right? Yeah.
Our consciousness works the same way as a radio. Consciousness is everywhere. Our brain is the receiving radio.
Yep, exactly.
Each of us has a frequency. You know, Campbell's got a frequency, he has a different number. I have a frequency, I've got a different number. Bernie, you same thing. You have a different frequency, and that frequency connects with your brain. That's why they can't find it. The consciousness is not here.
It's not in there.
And that it's this
it's everywhere.
Connect
It's in counter space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's interdimensional.
exactly,
Yeah.
and that consciousness isn't applied to Einstein's space-time relativity. So then, if consciousness isn't in that aspect of it, then clearly other energies traveling throughout the universe also aren't tied to it in the sense of like the speed of light sort of thing. Like, no, these energies are actually folding into higher dimensions within themselves, into the multiverse, and then unpacking themselves in their localized space-time.
Yeah, and more we're going to learn that, you know, Einstein's theory of relativity is going to keep crumbling.
Yeah, it's crap.
Absolutely.
It's crumbling.
It's
crumbling. It really is.
I think it was Ken Wheeler was talking. Was it Ken Wheeler was talking about it? No, maybe it was someone else.
Yeah,
and basically, I was saying it's too short. How can you explain everything in four letters or whatever? I mean,
right?
come on.
Yeah.
Get off your high horse, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think
energy is in everything.
It is everything. I mean, this is the thing. If you could take energy out of a building, the building would just crumble to dust. There'd be nothing holding it together. All you would have would be the individual, whatever you want to call them, atoms or whatever, but nothing, no force holding them together, which is the one, right? Which we hear, there's only one, all this kind of stuff. And that's what God is, really.
So,
right? God's the energy that binds.
Here's another example. Here's another example. The fractal water machine that I've been working on. Okay. If you go back to the Bible, right? They have the holy water. They pray to the water. And we're finding out now, if you think and pray to that water, your intentions will embed itself in the water. And that's the basis of my water system that I use. If I put good vibes and good energies and intentions, actually pray to the water. Pray to the water.
This is what they used to do in the Vedic culture, and they'd hold their water in copper vessels and pray to it for a week before they drank it.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think the holy water is at church? It's exactly the same thing.
It has to be. I hadn't thought of that before, but of course.
Exactly. They pray to the water. That's why they call it holy water.
Makes you whole again.
They're putting the collective consciousness into the water. Why do you think God used it for baptism, for prayers, for healing? He prayed to the water because the water retains that energy.
The memory.
It can hold on to memory.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and it's like, so with the alchemy stuff and like the monoatomics, when they these reactions they self-organize in such intense and complex structures in such short amounts of times. It's like there's no way this would be possible unless there was some sort of source consciousness or source programmed into it. And once you understand these sort of things, it's like, okay, God isn't the freaking white beard with the cloud above. No, it's the energy that is the consciousness that is the highest level. We are fractals of creations of fractals of creations of fractals of creation. It's of experiences of that within itself over and over and over again till we reach our point, and that each one of us is our own little God, and then you add up all of those together, plus every other life and consciousness throughout all dimensions within the multiverse, and that is your overall God.
You know what? No, what's the funny thing? I'll tell you is a little secret about myself. When I drink this water, and I'll actually pray to this water for about 15 minutes to add wisdom and knowledge, I pray that to the water, and that's where some of my best ideas come out. Within 10 hours, I got like, my mind goes into like hyperdrive, and these ideas start flowing.
So
It's amazing.
is that all you do, just 15 minutes, or do you have it like
Yeah, about 15 minutes.
just
Yep,
get in a
15
bottle and
minutes.
just spend 15 minutes
Just-
of intention and drink it?
Yep, exactly.
So when they talk about fractal water machines, what's that? When you actually buy a machine?
Well, I take spring water and I put it into the tank, and then what I do is I put it through a centrifuge, so it starts spinning like a vortex, and then it goes through a small hole at the bottom of the tank. It goes down, goes through a water pump, and then from the water pump, I send it through a very intense magnetic field. I use N52 neodymium magnets, and I put the water through that field, and then from there it goes through a water purifier, and from there it goes back into the tank, and it just repeats this process over and over and over again.
Just keeps doing it.
So what I've done, I'm changing the molecular atomic structure of the water from H2O to H3O2. I've changed.
Yeah.
Okay, so
All right.
what's
So
H3O2
basically,
then?
so I've added an extra hydrogen and oxygen atoms.
Basically still water, but it's got double
an
the
extra
bond.
hydrogen. Yeah, extra hydrogen in the water, and it's infused with electromagnetic field. So now that water is now super conductive. And also, like, I could take a bottle of spring water, shake it, you get a little bit of bubbles, right? Well, I take my water, I do the same thing, it bubbles like pop. It's like fizzing. It's got so much hydrogen infused in the, and also the mass of the water is quite a bit heavier. It's about 25% heavier.
And you're not putting hydrogen in it, it's just magnets and a vortex, basically.
Yep, I'm doing it. I'm simulating what happens in nature.
Which would be what, water running through the ground, down
through well, it's running, say through a stream. So the stream, you got all those rocks there. So you got the electromagnetic field of the earth rock. Okay. And then if it goes into a ponding area where it goes into a vortex, that's how it purifies. It's a natural process. And Victor Schauberger was studying this for many, many years. And that's when he started doing the structured water. So I've built my machine. It's been running for about 6 months now. And so I let the water spin for about 7 days, take the water out and put it into a bottle, chill it down, and start drinking it every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
And yeah, I built a unit. I think I have a video on my YouTube channel that shows the machine and how it works. Right. Now, other guys have gone a little bit further and installed what's called a Rife machine, where you can actually send radio frequencies into the water. So you would get a transducer and hook that up to the side of the tank, and then patch in your frequencies, your upper and lower frequency that you want. They actually have a list of about 200 different health ailments that you might have, like say like gastrointestinal, Crohn's disease, cancers, a whole bunch of stuff. They have a list, and they also have the frequency in which you put the machine at that will help remove those ailments from your body. Cancer.
So you just
Crohn's
feed
disease.
the correct frequency in, and and you create your own medicine, basically.
Exactly. Yep.
So not even water's what we've been told, man. What's going on here?
Yeah, the water I'm drinking, I've been drinking it for, well, my friend got me into it. He introduced me to this type of water, and he showed me the machine he made. It was quite a large machine. Mine's a lot smaller than his, but it still has the same effects. So the last component I have to put on is the Rife machine. As soon as I do that, then I'll have a completed unit.
Yeah. So you've got a video of that on your channel?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube channel. Yeah.
Because that'd be an interesting build. Because all you need basically is a pump, right?
A pump, a tank,
and some
neodymium magnets,
tubing, I guess.
Yep, tubing. Yeah, I show everything how I did it. Yeah, right. I use a beer brewing pot, cast stainless steel, and drill a hole at the bottom of it, attach the pipe that goes to the pump, and then from the pump it goes through the magnetic field. I made like a 3D printed a box where I put all the magnets inside, and then the hose goes in between that magnetic field.
Yeah.
And from there it goes to the water purifier. From there it goes back to the tank and just keeps going.
So you could literally just have like could you have a metal pipe with magnets actually stuck to it, then run the water through that? Or would that change their frequency?
Yeah, that would. I would use probably the rubber pumps, or sorry, the rubber hoses for that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because then the flux fields can travel through those.
Exactly. It's going to activate them, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, you want to stay away from steel piping in this project too. You want to keep it all rubberized.
Rubber, rather than copper,
The steel is what absorbs
the energy. It takes the energy away.
From the it creates the fields and all that kind of stuff, doesn't it? Gets it all going.
Anyways, guys, it's after 12
yes.
here.
Mate. You've given us an hour and a half, so thank you. We'll let you go to bed. But that was awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, and guys, if anyone's got any questions, I'm
gonna let Truth Unveiled in here as well. And
I got that water machine posted on my YouTube channel, so if anybody's interested, you can take a look at it.
Most definitely.
So check out Faraday. What is it? Faraday Energy Research and Development.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and we'll definitely get you back. I think probably 2 weeks, isn't it? Because you're busy next week, and we'll continue on this line. And what we want to do is actually, if you're up for it, get you on and actually build one and show people how to build just a basic, simple motor. Because when we do things, you learn a lot more.
And we'll sort of come up with like weekly projects or like monthly projects that we'll develop, them build it ourselves, record it, do it, and engage the how-to with the viewers and channels, and encourage everybody to do their own.
To make their own. And we could do it and answer questions.
Of it in stages, sort of thing.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
All right, we won't keep you anymore. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for your time, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Mate. Thanks a lot.
Always a pleasure. Much
love, guys.
Brother.
Cheers.
And I think Capalicious this is Mike's channel, Faraday
Research
nice
one,
and Development.
Thank you.
Right here. So there has been a lot of other developments going on.
Crypto's moving.
Yes. And so I'm starting to do a lot more work, and I'm going to be doing videos on my second brand new crypto channel called Crypto Alchemist. And I've mod now on Bitcoin Census YouTube channel, and they are one of the best crypto daily technical analysis programs and channels.
Trading, like we're talking trading,
they have tutorial videos on how to use each exchange platform, as well as research projects into the individual different cryptos themselves, as well as it's a team of people, and it's actually owned by Carl the Moon. He's the owner of Bitcoin Census. So it's actually a giant consortium of them, as well as, I believe, Da Vinci.
He's a young man, isn't he?
Or whatnot, and Da Vinci J19. He's the guy that is also a multi-millionaire, but was telling everybody to buy Bitcoin when it was $1. He did videos on YouTube when Bitcoin was $1, telling everybody to buy in, and he definitely put his money where his mouth is. And he now lives in Dubai, flying around on his own private jets. So it's like,
all he would have had to do is put $1,000 in, and he's set for life. $1 to 50 grand per coin.
And it's that if you do your research and pick the right ones and follow how the market is evolving, It's that you can still actually put $1,000 into crypto, not necessarily Bitcoin, but if you put it into the right third generation coins that are the one major thing that's going to happen internationally as the new economic exchange system goes online is that ISO protocol cryptos are going to be the only ones or the official ones or whatnot, and the mass adoption. So you want to get into those right now while they're still at $1 each or within a couple of dollars of each other. Had you listened to me and Campbell when we first started talking about cryptos just a few months ago, and Cardano was below $1, it is now above $2.50. So just in that time, had you bought in, and doubled in a half, two and a half X.
And this is the thing, when you look at that, like literally all Bitcoin can do from here is it might triple, it might quadruple. You might quadruple your money. But like Bernie said, we've already done that on a coin. It's already done it. And this coin can now go up and double another 1,000 times or more.
Doubling every couple of months sort of thing as these more protocols, more companies join into the actual advanced applications on these networks and crypto infrastructure. And then it's not just like a company being like, oh, they did their one account. It's like, no, it's like Walmart will be moving its entire economic system onto one of these platforms within the next few years that you currently have at $1. But as soon as any of these giant mass corporations put their entire global GDP onto these exchanges, like crypto right now, the entire market is $2 trillion. But it's like if you take, say, Costco, that itself is like 3 or 4 trillion, and just that into one crypto, that's doubling the entire size of the crypto market right now, and just going to be going into one crypto that definitely isn't BTC, but it will be, one of these others. And it's like over the next 5 years, literally every single country, every single company, as well as the individuals, will be transferred over onto the system. But it's that you want to get in and invest into these while they're still small, because it's inevitable that everything is going to be on them eventually. And
at least for a time. But yeah, that's what they're doing, is they're getting behind it, and so everything that they're backing will go up because it's going to be backed by billions of dollars of revenue, and that's what to make you money. But ultimately, hopefully, that should crash as well, and then the actual real coins will come out, and then you can do the same thing again. So this isn't about saying, oh yeah, the government own everything. It's about saying, let's ride that wave, get some wealth. And when it crashes, then we'll be in the new coins, and then that'll be the free economy, because this is going to take a few steps. It's not just going to go bing, oh, look, we're in a brand new world, oh, new economy. It's going to take, we've got to get through a few steps first. So ride the wave.
Exactly. And it's the fact that, wow, I lost my train of thought there. But just for instance, a scope of it is that like 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, had you owned $100 of Dogecoin before Elon Musk put his money into it, it was $100, and it's like it was just like a small a copy of Bitcoin essentially on the Bitcoin network that had no like value or like intrinsic use other than it being a replica of Bitcoin, only called Dogecoin. And then Elon put a certain chunk of his wealth into that, and all of a sudden you went from your $100 being $100 to $100,000. And that, any person that they're like, oh, Elon's going to screw over all his people. It's like, no, he just did them a massive favor of wealth transfer. That if you were following what he was doing with them, he actually created that wealth within the network that you are a part of too. So if you want to get into these networks, seeing that they're going to have these billionaires transferring their wealth onto them. And as long as you're owning a small little piece of it before that transfer of wealth happens, you're also going to gain exponentially from that transfer of wealth.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. But also, you know, we have to be smart and understand like what happened with Doge is what happens. You know, it's like it went up, and I saw one girl, she had some before Elon came in, and she rode up to $1.5 million, and in one day she lost 700 grand. No, she lost $1 million. She went down to $500,000 in one day. And I was sitting there when I could see this, and I'm yelling at the computer, sell, sell, sell. You've made your money now, get out. But they all just held on to it. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. And they all lost it the lot. So you've got to be smart too, guys.
Sure, they might have lost 75% because they didn't sell at the top. But also, it's never going to go back down to the bottom where they lose 99.5%. They're still up 25x. That, you know, that it, and it's watching the cycles, and it's like I had only started watching daily crypto markets in May, and I watched right before the crypto dropped, and within 1 month of watching a couple of these accurate channels that know what's going on, of calling the Wyckoff accumulation, I was able to say that Bitcoin was never going to go below 28,000 US, and it was going to start its reversal into the second leg of the current crypto market bull trend at the end of July. And sure enough, like I said that on this Bitcoin census channel like 3 months ago, and it's like Andy now keeps being like, "Oh, Bernard called it today," like I'm some sort of prophet. It's like, no, it's just following the shape of like these fractal geometries that you apply it in anywhere in nature, in reality, in any system, and it's going to have the same effects.
Same effect, yeah. The moon's good at that with these projections and stuff. So if you want information too, guys, make sure you're on the right channels. You know, people like Jeff Berwick, the Moon, BitBoy. Is it BitBoy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because most people out there talking about crypto, you know, they don't know what they're talking about. And most, I've got to tell you, most of these influencers, and a lot of them have gone to jail now. They're creating coins, or they're pumping up coins, promoting them to their followers. Their followers all buy in. The creator takes all the money, and all the followers lose it.
Exactly, right? See, and Campbell, what you're saying there, that's why it's like, I know Elon isn't that horrible of a person, because he could have like put his money into Doge in like certain chunks, so it seems like it was going to go up big, and then take it all out, sort of thing, and then collapse it all, like take all of his money out. That anybody that would have bought it, like Doge, even if you bought it at 15 cents, you know, like after it was already up at 20 cents or 30 cents or whatnot, it's like, no, you lost 14.5 cents per 15, or like, you know, 14.9 cents out of every 15 cents of that value that lots of these scammers are doing. And it's like, never go for a baby Doge or a Yoda coin or anything like that. It's like, no, meme worked once.
Let other people take the risk and see what happens for a while.
Exactly. And it's like the meme lottery ticket. It worked once in what is Dogecoin, and you might get a second repeat with Shibu Inu, but there's absolutely no guarantee that that will happen either. And it's like there's these other coins that if you watch them, it's like, oh, this coin actually just went online with $1 billion of daily new revenue coming through it. But hey, that's a conspiracy. Don't buy XRP. Don't buy Cardano. So, you know, like, it's like, oh my God, like this Chico Crypto, they did a video 2 days ago of Google announces its official coin of Ocean Coin, which it's like somebody tweeted that happened to work at Google something positive about Ocean. No announcement, no contracts, nothing at all to do with Google at all. Yeah, and they're like, what's Google's crypto? It's like, meanwhile, Google has been creating tokens on the H-bar chain and in its networks and running these test coins and tokenomics and all of that for 2 years and sits on their governing board of directors. But no, you can't call that a Google coin because they've invested 3 years of development and billions of dollars into it. Like, it's just retarded how
But
people...
I mean, people are still going off their nuts. Oh, it's a big scam. But I mean, I personally know probably 5 people that are multi-millionaires, and all they did was invest in Bitcoin when it was like $1. I mean, and we know it's worth what's it now? Up past 30 again. So I mean,
it's
just because
48,500 American right now.
Yeah, so just be smart. Don't listen. Watch with your own eyes and make your own decisions, because everyone will go out and they'll pay their power bill and they'll buy a car from the system, but that's not evil. But Bitcoin is, So this is all just perceptions and just judgment. It's nothing real. And Satoshi, don't know who Satoshi is, right? I mean, who does? But what does that mean? Does that mean Bitcoin doesn't exist? Does that mean no one wrote the program? Does that mean people aren't making millions of dollars? Pointing out the problems and focusing on this is bad, well, that's great. But while you do that, you're going to be sitting in the mud while all your friends are going past you and becoming wealthy. I mean, so you could, it's like that saying, right? You can keep your limitations if you fight for them. Sure.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
so, I mean, we're not, and this is not advice. We're just two crazy people.
Financial advice.
We don't know what we're talking about, but we're saying, think, guys. Think for yourself. Don't follow the crowd. Don't follow the crowd off a cliff. It's not going to help anyone.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Hello, we have people.
Hey, what's up, Otto? This is Alex and Erica.
Oh yeah, Alex and Erica, you're looking very disco there. You've got flashy lights all over you.
Yeah, man. We've got the whole light show set up. But anyways, earlier in the chat, you guys mentioned ESP, and we both have this ability.
Oh, what was that? Can't hear that well.
Okay. Let me see.
Is it distinct?
It was in the epoxy.
It was in the epoxy.
Yo, can you hear me now?
Much better, much better.
Oh, okay, yeah. Earlier in the chat, you guys mentioned ESP, and we both have a unique ability we want to try to share with you guys. We have the ability to talk in unison with anyone at any time. We've never tried this online.
Is our audio okay? Just make sure the audio is
can you hear us?
Is audio okay?
It's kind of going up and down.
Is it the thing plugged in? You want to get the mic?
Wait, we have a microphone.
We have a mic, but it's kind of like experimental.
So, what are you saying? ESP, yeah?
We're ESP. We have an ability to speak in unison, and we wanted to try to. We just started the second the audio.
Not just with us.
With them.
I get what you're saying. So, and the thing is like ESP, that is actual a range of electromagnetic frequency that is scientifically defined of in the electromagnetic range that these ESP waves are, that all life forms both broadcast and receive these ESP electromagnetic waves. It's just one frequency band wave within the whole electromagnetic
radio
range.
channels.
But it's that we act in the Western science as if this hasn't been identified in the 50s and known about the entire time, and it's cuckoo science to say so. But it's like it's right here. It's the elephant in the room. Use it and apply it, and anything is possible. It's ridiculous.
Okay, so
I'll let you guys talk here.
We're testing it out right now. One of you guys, Otto or Bernie, say a sentence. Okay, Bernie's gonna. But just say a sentence, start talking, and we're gonna sync up with you.
It's this thing.
And
It's
speak
it up.
It's the light.
Yeah, the light has audio. Hold on.
Wait, hold on a second.
Can you all right,
Hear us now?
Yeah, keep talking.
Yeah, the crazy lights were messing up.
We're talking.
Yeah, so go ahead and say a sentence.
No, it's still going. It's loud, and then it just disappears. Then it comes up. Then it disappears. And so
go back on the phone. The phone is surefire. This piece of garbage.
We're gonna hop on the phone.
Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Wait, but he's out there. He won't let us in. He's gone.
So try this. Try just saying a sentence. We're gonna sync up with you in unison. Just
The audio
anything off the
sucks.
top of your head, and we'll say the same words at the same time in real time as you're saying it.
You too, you mean? Yeah. Yeah, it happens. Like think of and babies or their children. It happens all the time that something happens to a child and the mother will go and know at the same time.
Yeah, it's hard because
It's hard. There's a
the
delay.
laptop keeps delaying. Yeah, now I'm stuttering. Now I caught the stutter.
But anyway,
Yeah, so try again. It just delayed that time, so like we got half the sentence.
let's do it with you and me.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So here we are. We're on
the
Didactic's channel, and we're on the BurnEye. BurnEye ScienceGuy. And
We got the boat.
we have Floods, Tartaria. We just talked at the same time. I mean, we're twins.
Yeah, but we could do it.
But is our audio so bad that this sounds ridiculous?
Man, probably. I don't know where the
It's
microphone
kind
is
of getting
on this
better.
laptop.
I think it's getting better.
Yeah, I'll hold
Switch
the
the
laptop.
energy.
I gotta hold it. I think if I leave it on the desk.
But yeah, they're talking about Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, I should have jumped in when Bernie was
That's
talking.
crowdfunded tyranny. What?
But anyway,
yeah. Beforehand, so it was all the energy, and basically we were talking about how when you send energy and you cut the mechanical, when you send it across air, then you induce this, ether or energy from another dimension, and you can start sending through different dimensions and channels and all this kind of stuff, which is basically what ESP is.
Yes.
So ESP is our body machine sending through the ether. Whereas, and that's what happens to machines as well.
No, this man's freaking genius. I was like, listening.
No, he's talking so you can sync up.
Okay, I'll sync up. We'll sync.
So what are you going to do? You're going to sync up and talk the same,
at the same time?
All right, let's have a listen.
Oh, listen. Go on.
Okay, well,
Wait, no, I did pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's a little ability we figured out. Like, she started it and she taught me, but there's no real way to teach it. You just kind of like zone out.
And we could all just start talking at the same time.
Yeah, we could all just talk.
We just say the same
at the same exact time. It was like a weird
twin biosis.
Yeah.
Well, twins have that as well, don't they? It's definitely a thing with twins.
There is nothing worse than everybody talking at the same time. I'm
Quick,
not
everyone
moving
go.
myself.
I know Canadians hate that. We won't do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Canadian
we were in
people,
Montreal
they
for a
hated
little bit.
that when we lived in Montreal.
Yeah. They don't like talking over each other. But anyways, we got other guys.
All right, I'm jumping in. All right, bye, Silly. Sorry, Silly's cool though. He's the best. Yeah, he's silly. Hey guys.
Show off the
Oh yeah, I want to show you guys my grounding shoes. I've been making.
Yeah, you made the video about grounding. We drilled a bunch of holes in our shoes so the energy could flow through, so the electricity could flow. Basically just took a drill to it.
And well, Capalicious had a great idea about we had the idea as well, but why are you pulling the camera? Okay, here.
Well, anyways, can you guys hear us okay? I don't know if we're still having trouble with the volume.
Yeah, it's still going up and down, yeah.
Maybe let's just hop on the phone. We'll sign out of the chat and sign back in.
Hold on. How about my voice? Does it resonate well, or it's still in and out?
There you go. Bernie, Jason Williams wants you to tell him something he doesn't know. Oh, now I've lost all my... Yeah, I've lost... Where's my...
Oh, no, now I can talk.
Oh, there we are. I think you muted it.
The aspect of what Mike was bringing up a point, and it's relevant to the spark gap, in that in the spark gap, it's actually an inverse effect of the plasma being in the hole in the neg entropy area, the counter space, and that in a toroid, right, in the donut, that hole, that is what is the I guess the flux field is equal all around it, and then right in the middle is your inverse like connection into the plasma, into the ether sort of thing, and that having a ferrite core of your transformer, and so they say through induction it's an induction coil, but it's that the ferrite is moving, the magnetic field actually is moving within that ferrite, not in like a ring. Well, it is a ring, but it's a toroid motion that magnetism moves in and the magnetic field moves in, and that the copper coil electricity, you're pulling the solenoid, connecting the electric field to that natural magnet field. But if you have in that counter space an iron core in it, you get zero energy induction into the next field, because it's then being sucked into the counter space that the mass is still connected into, so that the magnetic field or the electromagnetic field is still a toroid shape within that cube, but then it's physically connected in and draining. And if you have it as the exact opposite of that and in harmony with itself, you don't even need a large ferrite core to be able to create that transformer step up induction reactions, resonance, energy transfer, like happens perfectly in the tuning fork sort of thing. That it's the flow of magnetism that you're then able to resonates everywhere through the geometry of certain things in space-time, and that you connect those circuits in solids and replicate them, that it then pulls that same energy that's flowing in that closed circuit within the higher dimensions, and you're able to pull it out without having to put in all the energy to create that field or that dipole or that electromagnetic field in the motor sort of thing, that it's already going there and operating and being powered or being inertiaed by the resonant energy through the universe. And that we have been taught that we need to like recreate that, all of that energy to put in sort of thing. In fact, that you don't, you just need like to have a small tiny amount going in that geometry, and then having a resonant points within that circuit that you're pulling it out of and putting it back into. And it's that you're connecting it through a three-phase, that the DC is one phase, the AC is the other two phases. You have to have them at 90 degrees to that counter space, and in the flux harmonics of themselves. And right there, it's how essentially, I guess, like a quartz crystal could power like an LED sort of thing, or tuning, or the Nunez channel and their PoE vortex coil, how they have the three-phase going through that toroid geometry. One's open to the space, essentially like that spark gap. Two are going back into the circuit, and you're able to create and use that same electric current as a load coming off of your third phase that is counter space, but you're not actually creating that electricity through it being connected to the AC power lines, to a battery, or to a combustion engine or anything like that. It's actually coming out of the ether. And
that's what the rodent coil essentially is, isn't it? That was the big thing about the rodent coil, is it had three windings. Before that, they all had two windings.
You're putting them in that magnetic flux harmony of each other,
and the
whole circuit in it is going into that, and that's how it's just such a small amount of energy going in.
Yes. So and with what was it, ferrite that you said? It sounds like what's going on is the ferrite is just a medium for the magnetic field to flow down. So it's not actually the metal. If it was the metal and the atoms, then that would be not getting the ether involved. That'd be your DC, right? But when you're using that as a thing, as a medium to flow
for that
over.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a medium to capture it out of and to transfer it through. But if you know the efficient ways of it, it's able to be done in the same geometry with the same metals, but a lot.
But it's not like heat where you're sending atoms down and up the thing. It's not
exactly.
It's not a mechanical
all
movement.
Of that without the heat energy aspect of it, right there, and you're able to do it without the resistance energy aspect of it, and all of those key crucial inefficiencies that use up and waste 90% of our electricity that is currently being made by burning fossil fuels, which is also wasting like 99% of the energy efficiency of that fossil fuel. Also,
and they try to tell us that energy is heat and movement and all this kind of crap, where they're the effects. Clearly.
Yeah.
Right? They've got to be the effects. So they've given us a story backwards. They're saying, no, you need to create heat and you need to create movement and all this crap to get energy. No, you just suck the energy out of the air and then you use that to create heat.
Opposite, that it's like if you aren't wasting and needing to like have this resistance that creating heat, instead it will actually take heat energy, radiate heat energy out of the environment, and that's what's happening in the spark gap, and it's taking all of that radiant energy and then putting it and creating it as useful electrical energy, so that it's in the flux is in harmony with the circuit connecting into the plasma field that is then made in that spark gap in the plasma that plasma state. It is the spark, the arc, the plasma arc. Electrical plasma, and that electrical plasma is then connecting with the plasma of the dimensional universe.
Yeah, because it's jumping through air.
And that's what's then amplifying and giving you that extra electricity.
I have a question, Bernie. Do you think like they're still like gathering etheric energy like from antiquitech sources and then like facading it with like charging people for it with saying, oh, it's with like bones of dinosaur oil and stuff like that, just to hide the truth? Or is it a new bad way?
It was more advanced and understood in the past, and that like some of them might be still operating, but they're not what's powering the majority of everything, and that they're not building everything, or even lots of the probably don't even understand that it's doing that sort of thing, but who knows though, because if you actually look at how buildings are built and what they are and everything, it's like
they're not making it.
It's like maybe it's actually taking all of that energy we're wasting and turning it into a different energy that we don't even know about, and that's what feeds the parasites. And it's like that's why they want us to create and waste and use this 99% of inefficiency of everything.
In the last chat with Mike, remember he showed that video of the guy who went outside his apartment and took apart his power box, and he showed that there was no input. There was no input to his power box, which meant it was not coming from the grid. All there was an output. This thing was collecting free energy, and then it was feeding it to the system.
And it was the aluminum disc. It's like it's like a little Van de Graaff generator that's actually outside your house connected to your power box, and then it's just that tiny little. It's essentially, I guess, it would be a pulse motor that Van de Graaff generator is, and then the AC current going through the lines is what's pulsing it back and forth. But the majority of that energy of the motion and everything is actually from that little still 200-year-old technology.
Tiny little dynamo, basically.
Exactly.
Have you guys heard of this? I mean, it's called. Can you see it? The Lumerian plug.
No.
I have not.
Plug. Oh, no. What's that?
This is great. I love this. I'm still kind of figuring it out. I took it apart recently. First of all, what it is, I heard about it on this guy who makes Orgonite, his channel called Ascension Tools. And he highly recommends it for like not only like EMF protection, but basically what it rewires your house to be a circuit
Positive energy.
of really positive energy, and it gets rid of all the stagnant energy, and then it kind of like charges things in the house to be so I opened it up and looked in it. It's really complicated. It's not like what I heard about it, but it's really...
What's it got in it?
Oh,
Has it got magnets, or is it just
it's got an
wires?
antenna in there. It has like the story of it is like this guy, you know the story, right? Where the guy gets told, the guy gets told to go to like this convention about ancient technology, and it's about these people from actually Lumeria. They're like supposedly from similar to the lost Atlantean like place, and they were teaching about their energy there. And one of the guy that went, he actually wrote down the formula. I forgot the exact word. The 1985. He wrote down how to make this specific plug, and then he made them and mass manufactured them, and you could just buy them now. And they're super cool. I've noticed a lot of interesting effects from it.
Like the girl cat.
Oh, I'll just rebuttal. I had a cat that was super traumatized, and I plugged it into the house where the cat, she never left for years, never left the room, just had like extreme issues. Plugged it in, and she was able, like that day, the whole week I was there with it plugged in, came down, was her old self again, meowed, went outside. You know, she's like 15 years old. She's like 15-year-old cat. You know, she was... You know, they thought she was gonna die any day, but now she's like back to her old self again. And yeah.
And where do you get them? Is that on a specific site or is it just Amazon?
I got this one at the lumerianplug.com. This one, and it tells you all the benefits. You know, not only EMF defense, but like a myriad of things. It gets rid of like bugs in the house. Also like etheric bugs and stuff like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I need to plug in my phone, man.
Well, I mean, everything is frequency. So how would that work, Burn? Like, if they're just plugging that into the wall, is that bringing the energy out and then looping it back in somehow? Because it would have to be feeding back in as well, wouldn't it?
Either through an antenna array being three-phase connected into the ground, or having a spark gap, or like
okay, it could be as simple as that.
Thing like that.
Computer.
But it would also have to feed back into the house circuit, wouldn't it, to run through the circuitry?
Yeah, and that's
you would think. Bernie's thinking. I'm gonna have to send you one of those, mate.
Yeah,
so
I wish I had my screwdriver to open it up right now. I think I could find it to show you the inside if you want, because it does have outputs, inputs. Can you hear me? Okay. I don't know if my audio. Oh yeah, and it has audio. It has inputs. It has an antenna in there. It's some crazy. I thought, because I read before someone said it had just crystals in it or something, and I was like, it has just crystals in it. So I looked and it has a motherboard. I think it has like yeah. Can I show you my thing to open it really quick? Yeah, one step at a time. Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a good idea. You know, that should work. I'm just not sure how they're.
I was actually going to send you one, Campbell. I was going to send you one next month when I get money. But I will send you one. You can check it out and use it because it's super great. I love it. And if you have pain, which is just electromagnetic energy that's stagnant in your tubes, you take this and you put it near your pain, and it'll like undo.
I don't know if it'll work.
Let me try it.
And so you just plug it in the wall, yeah? Like you just plug it in the wall.
What's it supposed to do? Just like
it's supposed to change the frequencies, the frequencies of energy around the house.
Oh, so is it like broadcasting like a solfeggio frequency or like something along those lines?
It's something like that.
Radio frequency, because.
But
is that just like no different than plugging in like your Wi-Fi router, like you know?
It's completely different. It's like the opposite of Wi-Fi.
It sounds like it's turning your house into a circuit that's emitting a frequency.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a reverse Fahrenheit.
But it's not like a negative frequency. It's like a super beneficial one.
I just,
yeah,
I need
just
a bigger,
enjoying watching Bernie's brain twist.
I get like just it's like it would probably be either the Schumann resonance or one of the solfeggio frequency resonance.
Yeah.
That
Or
I would
430,
choose
yeah,
to have it
solfeggio.
converting that
Yeah.
frequency into that you're using.
And can you do that and then insert the frequency into your circuitry of your
Yeah,
house?
that's no different than a radio or a Wi-Fi
Yeah.
router or your cell phone or a microwave. It's what frequency
It's
range.
the frequency it's putting out.
EM frequency that it's putting out. Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna try to open it and show you, but sorry, I'm trying to find the right size.
Has it got like a hertz or anything written on it, like a
Yeah, because
frequency
that would be the hertz.
number?
Yeah, that would be the frequency that it is putting out. So it'd be like a less advanced version of what David Soretta makes and does.
What is the sword of the Lord? I don't know what the sword of the Lord is.
Speaking of Lumerian and the Moorish, we will have
Phone generator. Yeah.
we're gonna have Michelle Gibson on and do another interview with her tomorrow, about 1 or 2 hours earlier than we started tonight, I think, or maybe right around the same time.
About the same time-ish, around
We're going about 2 hours now. Yeah,
around 3 hours ago tomorrow.
yeah.
So in 21 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I'll just open it up really quick. I found the proper head thing. I think I did. Yeah, I did. Cool. Opening it up. I guess I'll just flash it really quick. Hold on. Well, don't lose that. Okay. Just because you'll have a better idea. Sometimes I hear stuff about, like, honestly, I don't know. I hear stuff about science and it just goes over my head. But I understand, like, the vibe, you know? Hold on.
Right.
I got it.
Yes,
Vibe, the resonance of the frequency. That's all it is. Your rhythm dancing, your vibe, your feeling, and the rate you're going.
That's the one.
DJs
and whole frequency
musicians
jumping around.
Tesla.
Oh my god. I hope I didn't break anything. Oh fuck. Okay. All right, here I have it open. Let me try to get it in the camera. This is what I don't know.
Get you some better light.
Okay,
Yeah,
you got a couple of transformers, couple of transistors, couple of capacitors.
Oh, it's shocking my hand really bad. Hold on. Ow. It felt good though, but fuck. Okay. Sorry. Can you see, or what does it look like? To me, it just looks like interesting. Like it I don't know. Lighting. Oh, I don't want to drop the little screws. Hold on. I got it. I'll do it.
Yeah, wait.
I lost a screw. Hold on. I got it. I got it.
All my screws loose.
Here.
Yeah.
Here. Loose screws. Don't lose those, please. Okay. Can you see it? I mean, it's basic, or like, is there anything screaming out to you like, whoa, this is like friggin' deep?
You gotta hold
it down.
Just a couple of different coils, though. There's probably a pancake coil for your scalar wave, and then another transistor going into a antenna for your regular Hertzian radio or microwave, just depending on the voltage and the amperage going in, and then to what transistor they're connected to and what antenna array they're connected to would dictate what the hertz frequency coming out of it is.
Which is first, yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, frick. Oh, okay. Oh, man. You put it together. It's not the wrong way. Is it? Here. Doink. Well, yeah, I'll get you one, Otto. You should check it out. I'm Bernie. I'll get you both.
Yeah, if you can get even just like the circuitry of it or like the patent of it, would be interesting to see what sort of different electrical components that they have within it and what exactly is going on. I'm going to cut it off here pretty quickly, though, because we have been going for 2 hours, and we will be back again
I was
tomorrow.
going to say I need to get going soon.
For sure. Is there any last questions in the live chat? And definitely, please, Truth Unveiled, if you can find the blueprint circuitry or the patent of that, I would be interested, and Mike would actually be the one to show that to on the next stream if we can get that circuit together, so that he'll be able to tell us exactly what's going on with it. And I'm not doubting, like,
I'll do.
If it is making like a Schumann frequency or one of the Solfeggio frequencies, they are known to heal. They are known to correct the vibes and the energy and the conscious or the subconscious energy as well.
I just have a quick burning desire. I don't know, whatever. I just want to say shout out to this book. I like this book right now. It's like totally manic and awesome, and it's like deep, and it's about what I believe that, you know, disease is a electromagnetic demon, and a parasitic insect in all ways. And I'm gonna be reading this on my channel slowly. Audiobooks are harder than I thought. Like, I listen to them all day, but when I try to record one, I'm like, it's harder. It's
not easy, is it?
Yeah, right? I put myself to sleep reading them out. Some people can do it and some people cannot.
Yeah.
I try. Don't know how I go though. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for joining us, guys, and thanks for everyone in the chat. We see you all there: Super Truther, Callum, David, Mum, Laura, Denise, Kappa, Benny, Riley. Sorry, we haven't got to all the. We don't seem to get to the comments very often, do we, Bernie?
Right. Well, we're adjusting. We're learning it. We're interconnecting, and like we've got 4 channels worth of comments all in one right now. So, you know.
I know, right? We're getting there.
I have another Bernie desire really quick, or I have regret. And then this is my grounding shoe insoles I made with Orgonite, and I wear them every day now so that I have holes in my shoes, but I also have a copper, you know, under pressure with crystals and stuff. It doesn't look like much, but under there is some crazy shit, basically.
And the actual physics of grounding and Orgonite and the energy interactions, people really don't like appreciate or understand or think much of it. But just try it yourself and make sure that you do an hour a day, that you're not having that rubber insulation sole, and that you actually are barefoot, grounded, transferring your grounding energy into Mother Earth and back, because there is an actual scientific ESP, energy transfer, between yourself and the rest of the Earth.
You're completing a circuit. Well, you're opening your circuit up to the bigger circuit, aren't you?
Exactly.
Well, that's why they want you wearing Nikes and stuff and shoes. Yeah. I mean, it's really to like block your energy, and it's to keep you at a lower frequency.
Yep. Take your shoes off and heal your soul.
The soul connects to the ground through the sole of your foot.
I love the Mudblood community. I love the believing community and our awesome wordplay abilities. Yeah. Well, I just
that's how casting spells, right?
Language.
It's just it's reverse engineering the grammatical spells that have been cast within the language. That is
the alpha beta frequencies.
Exactly.
Alphabet. All right, bye. Everybody. I'm going. I'll let you go. I'll keep you forever. I'll never end.
This time, same place.
Yes, we're going.
Same time.
And just and if you have anything you want us to look into, any motors you want Mike to start building and stuff like that, guys, leave them in the comments and we'll try to get onto them. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another
electrical engineering
to electrify your world and your brain. All right, thanks everyone. We'll talk to you all soon.